Get them hands up. All right.
From the beginning, he has shown that he is responsive to pressure from the Republican Congress.
There's a chance they could be duplicates or not relevant to the case. Is that why there's been some news that the Justice Department was against the idea of Director Comey sending a letter?
The fact is, he could have said, this is not an investigation. This is just finding out. He could have said, there's nothing criminal here. He could have put in, we don't know, we have not seen these emails.
Well, it didn't take long after the news broke for Hillary to get her friends in the media to trash Director Comey over this email investigation.
And joining us right now to react is Howie Carr from the Howie Carr Show. You hear him all over the radio. Impactful talk show host around this country who also hosted a Donald Trump forum. Are you surprised about the 180 that both parties are doing on James Comey?
No, it's only to be predicted, Brian. I was amused that Paul Krugman, the New York Times columnist, within moments was describing the release of the letter as Comey-gate, like it's Comey's problem that he's done something wrong here. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, I looked at the headlines yesterday in the Washington Post. James Comey's dangerous October surprise. James Comey fails to follow Justice Department rules yet again. James Comey needs to clean up his mess. It's just the damage Comey's bad timing it could do. I mean, what kind of bad timing? I mean, this is they said this guy was a lifelong Republican, a devout Catholic. He was the Dudley Do-Right of Washington. Now he's the worst guy in the world.
Yeah. This also reminds me, while Hillary Clinton is calling foul, how you and I are old enough to remember it was 24 years ago on the weekend before George Herbert Walker Bush versus Bill Clinton that Caspar Weinberger, his Secretary of Defense, was indicted. The indictment was later thrown out. But at that point, Bill Clinton himself seized on it and said, see, this proves the culture of corruption with the Bushes.
Right, exactly, Steve. That's the other thing here. This Jamie Gorelick. She was the #2 person in the Justice Department under Bill Clinton. She wrote an op-ed piece, and she said in the last 60 days before an election, quote, the balance should be struck against returning indictments. I guess only if you're only if you're investigating a Democrat, you should lay off in the last 60 days. So there's obviously a double standard. And by the way, the statute of limitations had run out on that Caspar Weinberger indictment. It was just a transparent way to get headlines for Bill Clinton when he was failing in the polls.
Yeah, editorial board back in July when all this came out, when Comey did not indict Hillary, Washington Post editorial board, they said that the Republicans are attacking Mr. Comey for doing his job. So what are they going to say now for him doing his job?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. This is like 1984. The Ministry of Truth turns on a dime, and we're all supposed to forget what they were writing a few months earlier. I mean, and Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General, saying that he's violating the rules. I mean, is it a good protocol for her to be meeting with the potential person of interest husband on the tarmac in the Phoenix airport? I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
And lastly, Howie, there's a problem. Our Justice Department might be at war with the FBI. Our FBI is mad at their leader. That's why on October 3rd, they get the 630,000 emails. They start seeing them. Later on, they inform James Comey, we got this. Comey's in a no-win situation, so to speak, because if he holds it, he's putting his hand on the scale. If he releases it, you could say he's putting his hand on the scale. But if he holds it, and in January it turns out this investigation had heated out October 3rd, he would go down in history as a man that thoroughly affected this election.
I agree. And you also got to remember this guy, the #2 guy in the FBI, McCabe. He's the one, the Wall Street Journal has been reporting on this for days. His wife was running for the state Senate in Virginia, got a lot of money from Terry McAuliffe, a Clinton confidant, over $500,000. And he tried to put the kibosh on this reopening of the investigation. I mean, this is just makes Trump's right. This makes Watergate look like child's play.
4 separate FBI field offices were conducting their investigation. It just never stopped. New York is the one who led the way in this case, aided by Little Rock. Howie, thanks so much. Look forward to hearing what you have to say in your show today.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks to everybody.
All right, thank you. Now let's hand it over to Heather, who has some headlines for us. Hey, Heather.
Good morning.
Good morning.
A bunch of other things going on. A whole lot of news. A bombshell new batch of WikiLeaks emails now revealing a link between Hillary Clinton's campaign and CNN. Dump 23, that's how many have come out so far, of John Podesta's emails showing Clinton's chief strategist secretly forwarding an email from a CNN source to aides and staffers in the Hillary Clinton campaign titled "Heads Up Between Us." Well, in it, the CNN source alerts the Clinton campaign to favorable poll numbers before the polls release, which is a big no-no. Now, all of this as the secret sharing site warns phase 3 of its election coverage is now on its way. Well, after 115 days at the International Space Station, American astronaut Kate Rubins has now returned back to Earth.
Engines at maximum thrust.
And liftoff. Congrats, Kate. Great to have you home. Well, a space capsule carrying Rubins, a Russian and a Japanese astronaut, splashing down in Kazakhstan. The trio spending 4 months in space, and Rubins also making history by the first person to sequence DNA above the Earth's atmosphere. Well done. Broken bones, punctured lungs, no cell phone service, and no 911. A motorcycle rider recording a chilling goodbye video after a deadly crash that killed his best friend. Well, the man lost his strength as he waits more than 30 hours for help.
Hey, everybody. That's all I can really say. About 50 feet down in the ravine. Just want to say I love you guys. Sorry, I was being stupid. I think I got a broke sternum. Ribs maybe back.
Goodness, he said, "I'm sorry, guys. What I did was stupid." Well, stuck in total darkness and struggling to speak, a passing driver finally hears his cries for help. This man is now recovering in the hospital and is expected to be okay. And those are your headlines. Boy, how difficult to watch him going through.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't know he was going to live or not by this story.
I know. Well, he did.
Plus, just the fact that while he was talking to the camera, you could hear people driving by. So that's got to be frustrating because they're way up there and they can't see him.
Somebody finally heard him.
They did.
Not his time.
And the miracle.
Thankfully, someone found him.
You're
He's
right.
Okay.
Amen to that.
Thank you.
On a different note, where do we find Janice Dean today?
Janice is dressed up for Halloween.
It's my favorite time of year. Well, you guys, you know that you've been in my office and I have a whole closet full of costumes, so they will be changing throughout the morning. Stay tuned.
All right.
It is the spookiest time of year, and it actually might be the warmest Halloween on record for a lot of folks. Look at your temperatures across the country. Central U.S., southern plains, warmer than average, 10 to 30 degrees above average. We do have a system across the northwest that could bring some inclement weather, so maybe an umbrella if you live across the northwest, the northern plains. But otherwise, the rest of the country looks good, and it's going to be warm. So back home in Canada, I used to wear my snowsuit underneath my costume, but in a lot of cases, you won't have to do that. Maybe kids will be wearing their bathing suits. Look at the temperatures today. Here's your Spookcast. 86 in Houston, 86 in Atlanta, Georgia, 54 in New York. It's going to be in the 60s in Fargo. So again, it's going to be quite a warm Halloween. Back inside, Ainsley and Steve and Brian.
Now, JD, you say you have a lot of costumes. You're not going to change into one of those scary clowns, are you?
No, I have no scary clowns
good.
in mind because I would scare me.
What are you going to be next?
Oh, you have to stay tuned for that.
Oh, a tease.
How exciting. All right, might as well watch the show. Janice Dean, the costume machine. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, meanwhile, they both mishandled classified information, but only one is in jail. We're going to talk to the mother of that sailor who is serving time while Hillary Clinton is free to campaign for the White House.
And former Disney star Hilary Duff is forced to apologize for what people are calling an offensive Halloween costume. Look at that. What do you think? Did she really need to say, "I'm sorry" for that?
Is she a pilgrim?
Yeah, she's a pilgrim, and I think he's an American Indian.
Donald Trump over the weekend comparing Hillary Clinton's investigation to other classified document cases that ended entirely differently for different people.
The young man that he mentioned, U.S. Navy sailor Christian Saucier, was sent to prison, there's his picture, for taking photos in a classified area of a submarine. You might remember we've interviewed his mom. That happened back in 2009.
Saucier's mom, Kathleen, agrees that there's a double standard for Hillary and her son, while her son sits in prison. Kathleen, this must really be tearing you up to see the double standard to such a stark degree that we're witnessing right now.
It is. It's just been devastating for our family. I mean, as you can, obviously said, my son's in prison. His wife and his daughter are without him right now. So that in itself is pretty rough. And then seeing someone else not be held to the same standard is just, it's mind-boggling to me and disgusting.
Why do you think she got off and your son didn't?
Or might be getting off, maybe, who knows?
Right. Well, the only thing I can say, again, I've said it over and over every time I've been interviewed, is there's obviously a clear double standard.
Yeah.
Either you're connected to the corruption that's existing right now, what we're seeing, what's being exposed more and more in our government, or you're not. And if you're an average American, you are not held to the same standard as people like Hillary Clinton and her staff.
Well, we do know that the FBI director revealed back in July that she did have classified information on her email, which is against the law. She really shouldn't have done that. What did your son do?
So when my son was 22 in 2009, he was aboard a submarine, and at that time there were no cell phone bans. He and many other submariners or young men on the sub were taking photos. Unfortunately, my son had 6 photos on his phone, which was an insecure device.
What did they show? Are these the pictures?
They showed pictures. That's a treadmill, I believe, in the picture there. They showed pictures of the engine room.
Showing the treadmill is against the rules?
Well, it's the things that are behind the treadmill that they were concerned about.
The gizmos.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, which is, again, as you can see, they've been declassified. One of the statements that Donald Trump made over the weekend was, this is a 40-year-old submarine, and probably 30 years ago, if the Russians wanted that information, they would have had it.
Good point.
So whether that's the truth or not, I don't know. But what I can say is, the comparison is very clear to me and so many others, is that both Hillary Clinton and my son had classified information on an insecure device. The part that changes or divides them is that my son, there's no evidence he ever transmitted them or shared them, whereas I believe an email is consistently transmitted. So an email is transmitted, so she had information on an insecure device, it was transmitted.
Yeah.
Mishandling classified information, you've heard Comey and others say, well, there was no intent on the part of Hillary Clinton.
Right.
There was no intent on the part of my son as well.
Yeah, if intent matters, so...
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. That's what they told your son, and that's why he's in jail.
Correct.
So what could you do to maybe bring this case up again? Or is this ever go to trial?
It never did go to trial. The week before trial, the Department of Justice and the FBI became very intimidating and threatening to my family. My son made the decision to take a plea agreement to stop what was going on for us. We'd spent everything that we had, and we went forward with that. So he accepted responsibility for having the 6 photos, which was a plea agreement. Part of the plea agreement, unfortunately, the FBI and Department of Justice required there was no appeal allowed in that plea agreement, as well as we found out that because he was sentenced to 1 year versus 1 year and 1 day, he will be required to serve the full 1 year. In addition, he'll be on 6 months electronic monitoring home arrest after, and 3 years.
Can you visit?
Meanwhile,
we can visit him now, and we're very grateful that we have that opportunity. Yes, it's
meanwhile, Hillary Clinton's millionaire could become president of the United States and did send classified information. Your son is behind bars. His wife has lost her job because she has to take care of her child at home, doesn't have child care. So financially, it's a strain on your family.
It's a horrible strain, and I myself had lost my job because I was a federal employee, as I stated. I've mentioned before when I was on here, and I'm going to say it again, I have a strong faith in God that God will take care of us. I continue to pray for that, and I recognize that as a federal employee, 2 months ago, I would not be able to come on the TV under the Hatch Act, which has been brought up for Comey.
It sure has.
To impact an election. So I'm grateful that God has allowed me to have this opportunity to speak out. And I mentioned before, it's not just about my son. This is about every American patriot, because what happened to us could happen to anyone.
Absolutely.
And
You clearly have faith in our country. You're wearing your red, white, and blue.
Right.
We wish you all the best. God bless you,
very much.
And please check out our Facebook page, American Patriots Against Double Standards.
It seems like an appropriate title.
Yes,
all right, Kathleen, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathleen. Senator Harry Reid taking the FBI blame game to a new level, saying that James Comey is the one breaking the law, not Hillary Clinton. But Republicans, they're not buying it. So is James Comey really the one to blame for Hillary Clinton's new problems? What do you think?
And keep Hillary Duff out of this. Former Disney star Hillary Duff forced to apologize.
So let's talk Fox Friends trends right now. The PC police out in full force this Halloween as a celebrity, that woman right there, is forced to apologize for dressing like a pilgrim. Here with a breakdown of what's trending this morning is Fox News headline reporter Carly Shimkus. Hillary Duff is in that image with a man dressed as an American Indian, and people have a problem with it, right?
That's right. She went to a costume party with her boyfriend. She dressed as a pilgrim. He went as a Native American, and people are criticizing her on social media in a pretty big way, accusing her of being racist and cultural appropriation.
Dressing like a pilgrim is racist?
Apparently it's insensitive to Native Americans.
To Native Americans.
Yes. So she was forced to apologize. She wrote, "I'm so sorry to people I offended with my costume. It was not properly thought through, and I am truly, from the bottom of my heart, sorry."
But then you had some people who weren't offended by it.
A lot of people, after she apologized, said, "This is crazy. You did nothing wrong." So Joe on Twitter said, "It's offensive that you're apologizing. Stop. If someone got offended, that's not your problem. They can deal with it tough." And then Kim said, "I'm Native American and not offended. People need to stop reverse racism and maybe go out and meet a native."
All right.
That's her opinion.
Meanwhile, there's a mom who is very creative down deep in the heart of Texas, or deep in the heart of a deep freeze. And this is head in the freezer costume.
God love her. So her name is Alicia Williams. She won over the internet and also won her office Halloween costume contest.
She went to the office dressed like a head in a refrigerator.
You know what I love about this? She has Eggo waffles on the left side. She has a bag of chicken nuggets. She has her shopping list on the front of the refrigerator.
Probably a piece of wedding cake in there.
And it took her two days to make that costume. She used like rock candy in her hair
to look like ice.
She also said that she cut her finger and used the blood in the costume, which is a little creepy, but E for effort.
Right, let's go to the
she
won
$100.
Let's go to the last trending topic. The social media reaction to the Seahawks player who got a penalty for hugging.
Good morning. Tomorrow is November, and you know what that means. Today is Halloween. It's October 31st. I'm Ainsley Earhart. We start with this, a Fox News alert. Hillary Clinton's top aide is lawyering up after the FBI gets a warrant to read more than 650,000 new emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop.
How do you get to 650? I think that's called the mother load. How do you have that many emails? What do you do? Sit down all day and just keep typing? Hey, no wonder nothing gets done in our country.
So, what do you think? Is the Hillary Clinton camp throwing Uma under the bus?
Kind of sounds like it. Meanwhile, Democrats outraged that the FBI has derailed the Clinton campaign. Now they want to charge the FBI director with a crime. And wait until you hear who's behind that. Remember him? Harry Reid's parting shot straight ahead.
Wow. Plus, with only 8 days left until the election, one of the nation's largest newspapers calling on all Democrats, at least one columnist is, and news media to demand Hillary Clinton step down. Whoa. Your mornings are better because you woke up with friends.
Let's get straight to that Fox News alert. The FBI under fire now. Senate Democratic leader Harry Reid accusing the director of the FBI, James Comey, of breaking the law as Hillary Clinton's email investigation ramps up overnight.
Now, the feds are officially getting a warrant to search the laptop of Uma Abedin's husband, Anthony Weiner. We think she has that warrant already.
It was a joint laptop. They both owned it when they were married. And Kristen Fisher is live in Washington, D.C., following the very latest developments. And Kristen, there are plenty.
Oh, my goodness, guys. You know, we're learning a lot more this morning about what exactly is on that laptop and how it got there. Two sources with direct knowledge of this investigation say that laptop was used to back up Uma Abedin's phone multiple times, including some of her emails. In fact, the Wall Street Journal put the number at 650,000. Now, they were uncovered by the FBI office in New York, which is investigating Abedin's estranged husband, Anthony Weiner, for possibly sexting with a minor, so a separate case. But when Weiner handed over his laptop on October 3rd, the FBI then started searching his computer, and it apparently turned up positive hits for state.gov accounts as well as Clinton's emails. So the FBI has had this laptop for several weeks. The question is, when did FBI Director James Comey finally learn about it, and will he release more information about it before Election Day? Now, Democrats are demanding that he do so. In fact, the top Democrat in the Senate, Harry Reid, is now accusing him of possibly breaking the law by violating the Hatch Act, which bars FBI officials from using their authority to influence an election. Senator Reid sent him a letter last night that reads in part, quote, "Your actions in recent months have demonstrated a disturbing double standard for the treatment of sensitive information with what appears to be a clear intent to aid one political party over another." But remember, these are the same Democrats who just a few months ago were praising Comey for his decision to not recommend charges against Clinton. Brian Ainsley and Steve?
Wow. That's right. So they loved him before they hated him. All right. David Bossie is the deputy campaign manager for Trump-Pence. He joins us live today.
Thanks for having me.
You bet, Kristen. Thank you very much. So what do you think?
Oh, I think this is an amazing time for Donald Trump taking his message to all Americans, and we're having a great time with our positive message of hope, growth, opportunity for all Americans. Donald Trump said it many, many times. He wants to be president of all Americans, and we're looking forward to Election Day.
Mm-hmm. I've been watching some of your live events. One thing's consistent. You start with Obamacare, and then you go to the emails. Why do you think that Obamacare resonates more? What are you seeing?
You know, the American people have always wanted to talk about the substance of the issues. And we have been saying, Mr. Trump's been saying for a year and a half that he wants to repeal and replace Obamacare, that's going to be his number one signature issue, to get that off the backs of the American people and make American health care great again. And what we've seen is through our events across the country, Mr. Trump's been traveling extensively over the last several months. We've seen the American people just respond to that issue, and that's why we're talking about the issues. Obviously, the FBI issue is a big one, but the American people care about what's affecting them on a day-to-day basis.
Sure.
Well, all right, Chicago Tribune is not supporting Hillary Clinton through all of this, even though she conveniently says Chicago's her hometown. It's the hometown of President Barack Obama. This is what the columnist wrote. Think of a nation suffering a bad economy and continuing chaos in the Middle East, and now also facing a criminal investigation of a president. The best thing would be for Democrats to ask her to step down. It would be the most responsible thing to do if the nation were more important to them than power. And the American news media, fairly or not firmly identified in the public mind as Mrs. Clinton's political action committee, should begin demanding it. What's your reaction?
Yeah, that's columnist John Cass.
Look, those are not friends of Mr. Trump's either, right? They're not. We look at the Chicago Trib and are shocked by that. Look, what they're saying is another 4 years of Clinton investigations. They lived through the 90s where one investigation after the other of the corruption that was the Clinton White House from 1993 to 2000. And they just don't want to see it again. And they're seeing issues like this with Jim Comey this past week that's raising that bar for them. And I think that they're bringing up an issue that the Democrats need to consider seriously.
You know, David, there have been 3 big October surprises in your favor. WikiLeaks, you had the Affordable Care Act, which you talked about with Brian just a moment ago, and now James Comey. That could explain how, in the very latest Washington Post ABC poll, Hillary Clinton's 12-point lead has evaporated in less than a week. Right now, they are neck and neck. Also, I was reading this morning, according to the New York Times, Donald Trump is up by 4 in Florida. Why is it that people who have been on the fence seem to be going your guys' way?
This is exciting. This is what we've always been hoping and planning for in this campaign. Mr. Trump's message to Republicans is really resonating, and to independents is really resonating. And that's who are coming home to Mr. Trump's candidacy, and that's why we're seeing this lift in the polls in the last few days.
I am surprised, personally, that you're in New Mexico and Michigan, not North Carolina and Pennsylvania. What's going on?
Well, we're in Pennsylvania and Florida as well. We're going to be in Florida tomorrow. We're in Pennsylvania later this week. We're in Pennsylvania tomorrow.
What are you seeing in Michigan?
What we're seeing is polls tightening. We've had 3 polls here just in the last few days that show us within the margin of error in Michigan. We're excited to be able to bring our message there, and Mr. Trump's doing some great events there later today. We look at New Mexico, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and others as an opportunity for us to expand our map, to be on offense this last week. And Mrs. Clinton, while in between naps, is really trying to is being on the defensive and constricting. Look, she's having to protect her areas instead of expand.
She wants you to let go. She says, I want to see those emails, James Comey. Do you feel the same way?
Look. That's a defensive posture.
But do you want to see those emails too?
Brian, of course we want to see them. But she also knows she's able to say that because James Comey is not able to provide them. She's demanding something that is not possible under our current system.
Because then it makes it look like she's saying, I didn't do anything wrong. I want to see these emails. Bring them out. Let's make them public.
We all want to see transparency when, in fact, she and Huma Abedin know exactly what's in those
emails.
And they could release them.
And the FBI has already said they will not be releasing these. They will not complete this investigation before the election.
Of course not. This is going to take months, and that's why we as all Americans are concerned about electing somebody who is going to be in such have such criminal problems as president.
David, for the FBI director to come out on Friday and do what he did, what does that suggest to you is in this 650,000 email cache?
You know, it's interesting. I've worked in investigations, as you guys know, for a long time. This is very serious because no FBI director 12 days before the general election for president of the United States is going to take that action unless he or she has seen evidence that has requires this type of action.
Risen to the level.
It has to have breached the level in which his senior leadership of the FBI demanded action, and I think he relented to his senior leadership.
Do you believe there's something going on in the FBI that forced him to do that? Within the FBI?
Look, but this happens in every case. Because people come to you and say, we need to do this, and they make arguments. He was clearly convinced that there were possible crimes here by the candidate and her top aides. Look, let's not forget, 5 of her aides received immunity. These people have. This is an octopus. This investigation.
And no one is to blame but Hillary, right? Because you've got Harry Reid that's blaming James Comey. James Comey is investigating her emails.
Sure. Absolutely. Harry Reid Harry Reid's a political hack who's on his way out, so he has nothing to lose. He's not running for re-election, and quite honestly, thankfully. But these Democrats will do anything to try and muddy the waters, and we just need to let the FBI do their job.
All right. David Bossie, we thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good to see you guys.
It's been exciting 8 days.
We should point out we did invite folks from the Hillary campaign, and they have declined to appear on the program.
All right, Heather has some headlines. Heather, when I woke up this morning, the alarm clock went off. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the last full week before the election.
Exactly.
Here we go.
Exactly. Game on, right?
Yeah.
We all know her butler wakes her up.
She wishes she had a butler, of course. Good morning to all of you. Hope you're off to a great Monday and a happy Halloween to you. Starting out right now with a Fox News alert and a real panic on the runway for passengers aboard this flight. A possible bomb threat from a fellow passenger forcing hundreds of people to evacuate this plane overnight. It was a Spirit Airlines flight from Fort Lauderdale, and it was just about to leave for Dallas, actually. A Twitter video showing police boarding that plane quickly, removing the person who made that threat. But outraged passengers say they had no idea what on earth was going on. Listen to this.
They left us on the plane for about 2 hours due to protocol. We were not allowed to get up, go to the bathroom. We weren't allowed to get any of our things.
Passengers were loaded onto buses until the all clear was given. More on that as we get it. Another Fox News alert right now. That deranged killer who sparked a massive 8-day manhunt killed in a shootout overnight with Oklahoma police. A farmer spotted Michael Vance camping out in a field. Officers then were quickly able to move in. One of those officers was shot but is expected to be okay. Vance was wanted for allegedly killing 2 of his family members and then shooting at responding officers before he took off in a stolen car. That's some video of him right there. Well, the last time Melania Trump delivered a speech about her husband, it was at the Republican National Convention. Remember this?
If you want someone to fight for you and your country, I can assure you, he's the guy.
Well, now Melania is heading out on the campaign trail for the first time. She will deliver a speech on Thursday in Philadelphia. Melania spent most of the campaign at home with her young son, Barron. She told Ainsley about that one. No word, though, yet on what she will say on Thursday. And that was such a terrific interview that you did with her, Ainsley.
Right, I think she found out for the first time that she was doing 3 speeches in the final week. She's like, really? I had no idea.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, it was a really big weekend, a big news weekend. Everybody was talking about Richard Gere and Lily Tomlin and the iPhone 7. Wait, what were the top trends, the top tech trends?
Those were the top trends.
They really were? Tech billionaires helping to bury negative headlines about Hillary. Is that indeed possible?
And you get a lot of perks if you're the president. If you don't mind the taxpayers footing the bill, like getting to play golf with Tiger Woods. Wait until you hear what that cost you, the taxpayer. Get up and go to work, guys.
They were both a lot younger.
Pay for it.
Yeah.
You had to open up your mouth.
Eight days until the election and another huge weekend, this past one in the news. Everybody was talking about, trending-wise, Richard Gere, Lily Tomlin, and the iPhone 7. Well, at least if you ask Facebook. Why aren't the stories that rocked the election even registering on the social media scale? Does it have anything to do with the fact that 95% of campaign contributions from the tech industry went to their candidate, Hillary Clinton? Senior editor of The Federalist, Molly Hemingway, joins us right now live from our nation's capital. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How is this possible that if you looked on Facebook, you don't get anything about Hillary Clinton and this new FBI investigation?
Well, this weekend, Donald Trump tweeted that social media was censoring news about Hillary Clinton. That's actually not true, in that this was the biggest news. I mean, people were talking it all over media and social media. It was trending in various different ways on Facebook. It was the only thing people were talking about on Twitter, and it was the top of Google News. But having said that, there are these problems with social media and how they control news stories. I mean, it was just this year that Facebook had to do that big face-saving meeting with conservatives when it was revealed that they were censoring news stories from conservative outlets, and they had a team of editors picking out what was trending, and that team was overwhelmingly liberal. Google News is saying they're going to be fact-checking results in their search, so that you don't actually get the actual results, you get what they want to say are the results. And they have a very political position. Google News, the CEO of Google's parent company, Eric Schmidt, was one of those people exposed in WikiLeaks as working intimately with the Clinton campaign. And then Twitter is just very hostile to conservatives. They kick conservatives off when they do the same things that liberals do. They have teams of social justice warriors working to censor information. So it is a very legitimate concern how these social media giants are controlling information.
Sure, and we're going to put up, you mentioned some of the social media executives who are supporting Hillary Clinton. You got the guy from one of the Facebook founder, Facebook COO, Yahoo. Eric Schmidt wants to be Hillary's #1 outside advisor. People should not think that when they go on social media, it's fair for the most part, because it looks like, if you look at that, if you believe that, Molly, they all tilt way to the left.
Well, there is a very big problem in Silicon Valley of a political unevenness and a bias there. I mean, Facebook did say that they were going to allow Donald Trump to post his opinions, but they weren't extending that same generosity to actual members. So you do have to be careful. At the same time, social media is a great way to work around normal mainstream media constraints. And so you've seen, I mean, these videos exposing the voter fraud schemes, the Democratic dirty tricks, those were not covered very well by mainstream media. They were very much spread through social media. You saw the same thing with the undercover videos exposing Planned Parenthood's participation in fetal body part sales. That's something that wasn't covered well in mainstream media that did amazingly well through social media. So social media still is a great tool for conservatives to get their message out, but they should be concerned about controls at the top that can limit that information spread.
Sure, absolutely. The way they filter it. Now, if people would like to follow Molly Hemingway on Twitter, gee, what's your handle?
MZ Hemingway.
All right, very good. Molly, thank you very much. Have a great week.
Thanks.
All right, what do you think about that? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. We promise not to filter it. Meanwhile, Democrats say FBI Director James Comey just blew Hillary chances at the White House, but Republicans say she can only blame herself. Who's right about that? We've got a fair and balanced debate straight ahead, 8 days out.
I'm walking down this road of mine, this road.
Hey, time now for your news by the numbers. $54 million is where we start. That's how much the Defense Department paid for life-saving EpiPens as drug maker Mylan made a fortune off jacked up prices. The DOD is supposed to be getting a discount, but instead paid full retail price, buying through private pharmacies instead of military facilities. Does that make any sense to you? And $3.6 million. That's how much you, the taxpayer, shelled out so President Obama could hit the links with Tiger Woods during a 2013 Palm Beach, Florida trip he made. That money covering costs for Air Force One and travel expenses for security officials. I'm so glad I approved that. And finally, 3-2. That's the Cubs beating the Indians in Game 5, staying alive to force a Game 6. The bad news is it's back to Cleveland for 6 and 7. And that's all I have to say. It's time for Ainsley to speak.
That's only bad news if you're a Cubs fan.
That's true.
You're biased.
I apologize.
All right, Hillary Clinton and her team declaring war now on the FBI.
And the FBI director, okay, you violated these two protocols. You owe the public full information.
We find it very strange that 10 days out, that he's putting this letter out there.
In fact, it's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling.
But is the FBI really the one to blame? Here to debate this is Trump surrogate and radio talk show host Dr. Gina Loudon, along with Clinton surrogate and the Miami Beach mayor, Phil Levine. Thank you both for being with us. I'll start with you, Dr. Loudon, who is waking up super early. You're in San Diego. Thanks for being here with us. Do you think, is it Comey's fault? Who's to blame here?
No, this is a pattern of the Clintons and their cronies. You know, they blamed the women that her husband attacked. They immediately hired private investigators to trash them. This is what they did with James O'Keefe. They blamed him. This is what they did with WikiLeaks. They blamed the Russians. That proved not to be true. This is their modus operandi, and they don't want the truth to be that, look, it looks like this this company of people are so mired in scandal, Ainsley, that I don't even see how she would govern at this point. They don't want the American people to see that, so it's a distraction.
Yeah, Phil, back in July, and this year in July, when they said that she was not going to be indicted, the Democrats were saying he's just doing his job. But now they're saying he's to blame. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's incredibly strange that 10 days before the most important election in the world, all of a sudden, you know, there's these new emails that came out. The fact of the matter is these are most likely backed up emails. I think that it's something that everyone knows. But I think more importantly is this. I mean, my God, I mean, let me tell you what I'm hearing from the folks in South Florida, people that came from countries like Venezuela, where they've actually seen things like that happen in their countries, and that's why they're living in Miami now. This is concerning to all Americans. How did the director know this weeks and weeks in advance? And all of a sudden, 11 days before they decide to bring this out, my God, something doesn't smell right here. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm also obviously the mayor of Miami Beach. But when my instinct tells me there's a problem here, this has not been a great week for the FBI. All Americans need to understand, why are they getting involved in this election?
So, Dr. Loudon, is timing the problem, or what she actually did the problem?
Well, I think what the American people are waking up to is that, number one, this would be a daily occurrence if she were president. Kind of a horrifying thought, because she does have so much scandal. But I think also, when we worry about corruption, I think we have to think about, if this is on some sexual pervert's computer somewhere, what foreign government has information on Mrs. Clinton or those closely associated with her, and how would they use that against the American people, Ainsley? I think that is the real corruption that we need to be concerned with, and the things that many that have come to the United States have sought freedom for, is freedom from the kind of corruption that plagues the Clinton camp.
Mayor, what do you think about this? Because it's definitely affecting her in the polls. She was up 12 points a few days ago, and now she's leading by 2.
Well, I'm going to tell you, Ainsley, of course, Florida is always going to be close. It was close in 2012. It's going to be close. It was close in 2000. It's a close state. We know this election is going to be close. But I think for the sake of transparency, because the director of the FBI is getting involved in this election, why doesn't the commissioner of the IRS now get involved in this election? And we know that Donald Trump is under federal IRS investigation. Let's release his tax returns. The IRS commissioner should follow the lead of the director of the FBI and release his information. And the state attorney generals should release information on Trump University and all the fraud cases going across the state. Let's bring it all out there right now. That's what I think the government should do.
Wow, what's your response to that? Is that a pivot or what, Dr. Loudon?
That is a masterful pivot, but I'll say this. How about if Hillary just doesn't destroy evidence, doesn't hammer people's
Well, that's a great lie, because you know that's not true.
Doesn't bleach bit the emails in the first place.
If something's
doesn't
on a
delete
server,
them in
it's
the first
on a
place,
server.
doesn't
What happened? They
lie
had bad
and cover
investigation?
up
They all of a
and
sudden found
threaten.
600,000 emails?
How about if the
What kind of
transparency just
investigation
for once in
all
her
of a
life
sudden
comes from
finds
Hillary
600,000
instead
emails?
of blaming someone
we know
else at
these
every
are backed
turn?
up emails. Come on, IRS, give us that information.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Mayor and Dr. Loudon, for being with us. We appreciate it. Have a good one. All right, brand new details on that 767 that exploded, the 767, I should say, the airplane that exploded on the runway. Is it part of a bigger problem plaguing more planes? And Democrats have a new talking point. Hillary didn't break the law. Her server did. Tucker Carlson, he wants to know, will the server do hard time? If you missed it over the weekend yesterday on Fox & Friends, we're going to replay it and get his reaction. That's live next. Hey, Tucker.
He's going back to look at the server. That's what he has said. He has told members of Congress.
So the server is the subject of a criminal investigation. Is that your position? We're going to charge the server with a crime?
No, that's his.
Do you think that server would do hard time? Perhaps the death penalty? The frontrunner of this race is under criminal investigation by the FBI, and your position appears to be...
No, she's not, Tucker.
She is
and no, I don't believe that when Director Comey says that he's going back to look at this other server that Anthony Weiner had, that I don't believe that that amounts to the fact that Hillary Clinton is under criminal investigation. What he said is he's going back to look at the server. That's what he has said. He has told members of Congress.
So the server is the subject of a criminal investigation. Is that your position? We're going to charge the server with a crime?
No, that's his.
Do you think that server would do hard time? Perhaps the death penalty? I mean, this is crazy talk.
He has admitted that he doesn't know whether there are any emails there that are connected to this or not.
Right. Okay.
That's what he's admitted, and that's what you, my friend, gloss over.
Yeah, my
How
friend.
dare you gloss?
Mr. Glossy. Tucker Carlson joins us right now from our nation's capital.
He did call you his friend.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We're going to put the server in solitary. The funny thing is that, you know, O'Malley's not dumb. He was the mayor of, he was a pretty effective mayor of Baltimore, actually, a much less effective governor of Maryland, but he ran for president. I mean, he's hardly a dummy, and yet he's forced by his fealty to the Democratic Party to repeat talking points that are not just dumb, but that disgrace and diminish him in their dumbness.
But
I mean,
Tucker,
they're so not believable.
Right.
They hurt him.
Republicans have no problem running from Donald Trump. They had no problem taking on George Bush. But so far, we only have Doug Schoen and a columnist in the Chicago Tribune who are upset enough to say, I cannot vote for Hillary Clinton. How do you explain that?
Well, you saw it during impeachment. And by the way, Republicans are still running from Trump. I mean, if you go on to the Twitter feeds of, say, Jeb Bush or John Kasich, the sitting governor of Ohio, you'll see not one reference to the Hillary Clinton criminal investigation, by the way. But I think this points up the essential difference between the parties. I mean, the Republican Party, for all its many flaws, I'm hardly flacking for the Republican Party, but basically is an ideological party concerned with ideas. You know, they believe this. They might be wrong, but they believe these things, and they feel them strongly about them. The Democratic Party increasingly is a party about accumulating and wielding power, the presumption being we're good people, we're smarter and more virtuous than you, put us in charge and we will do good things. It's not about policy specifics. There are a couple differences. They're very against racism and they're for immigration. Okay, fine. But in general, it's just about winning and governing. And that's scary, actually.
Tucker, yesterday I was watching Judge Jeanine Pirro's show, and Doug Schoen was on the show with her, and he said, who we know is a longtime Clinton family friend, and he said, I can't vote for her now. And the judge said, what? Did I just hear you correctly? What's your message to the independents that still have not decided who they're voting for?
Well, I mean, Doug's reasoning was interesting and pragmatic. He said, look, you know, she's under investigation personally. Her family foundation is under a series of investigations. Her closest aide is under investigation. Her longtime fundraiser, Terry McAuliffe, is under investigation. I mean, there's just a lot of criminal investigations clustered around Hillary Clinton. And if she were elected, what would that mean? We could very easily wind up in an actual crisis, a sort of leave office crisis. I mean, potentially. That's his concern. And so, I mean, I do think voters should think that through. It doesn't mean that she's guilty of anything. I'm not alleging anything. I'm merely saying this is a big deal, and pretending it's not happening, which is the position of most Democrats, was Mr. O'Malley's position, is not adequate. This actually is happening, and they need to internalize that.
Sure. And the FBI apparently right now is going through 650,000 email to figure out what's going on there. Meanwhile, you know, apparently, while Martin O'Malley has the new talking points, blame the server, kind of like don't blame the Don't blame the gunman, blame the gun.
Exactly.
You got Howard Dean out there, and he's back to his old tricks. He tweeted out, ironically, Comey put himself on the same side as Putin, back to the Russia thing, along with the congressman from the great state of Ohio, who's a Democrat, Tim Ryan. Well, listen to this.
I can't imagine there's any there or anything that's really going to have an effect on the election. So the question is, where did these documents come from? How did they get to the FBI? Is Russia involved in this? We don't have any clue of where this stuff is coming from.
We don't have any clue where this stuff is coming from, but we're going to mention Russia every time we have a chance.
Well, actually, we know these. Sorry. I don't think you can say of Howard Dean, like, he knows better and he's just repeating a talking point. I mean, I think poor Howard Dean actually kind of believes all this. He has his talking points confused. These are separate stories. They are separate investigations. There's no allegation of Russia's involvement in the current FBI criminal investigation into Hillary Clinton whatsoever. They're just kind of throwing it out there. Here's the ominous part, though. Russia is a real country with actual nuclear weapons. It's a player, of course, in Europe. And so to change our foreign policy to suit her presidential campaign for the final week of it is a very reckless thing to do. And we are taking a newly aggressive posture toward Russia just to help Hillary Clinton. I mean, if that's not reckless, I'm not sure what is. Trump is often called reckless. In some cases, it's true. This is really reckless, I think.
Tucker, this is an example of what happens if Donald Trump doesn't get in his own way. By sticking to the prompter and doing select interviews, he's allowed Hillary Clinton to become the story, and he's picked up 12 points in the latest poll. He's within 1 on the CBS tracking poll. He's within 2 on the Investor Business Daily poll, and he's on the march. Where do you think we're going to end up in 8 days?
Well, reality is interceded. I really think Obamacare has driven most of this. The polls, I don't think, have fully absorbed the news from Friday of this new investigation. Right. But look, Trump is doing better right now than he has at any point during the entire expanse of this race, right now. Yep. And you're seeing, I mean, she's lost like more than 10 points in a week. That's a dramatic movement. I would never presume to predict the outcome, but I can tell you where it's going, and you know where it's going.
That makes me want to see the polls over the next few days then to see what they're going to look like.
She can't come from behind. She has to have something happen to have her come from behind.
You always want to peek at the end, which is what is happening.
We still have 8 more days to go, though. Anything can happen.
By the way, Tucker, all weekend I watched your hair. It looked good. Your hair looks best today.
Your hair?
The part's pronounced. It's just right on the money.
You know why? Because I'm so tired I let the hair lady have her way. And she just went crazy on me. She did.
She had her way with your hair. It's good.
She did.
That's good. All right. Tucker, have a great Halloween.
Oh, it's great to see you guys this morning. Thank you.
Good to see you.
He can't even see us.
Get some sleep. I feel like he's on every show. He just doesn't sleep.
Right.
He's a busy man. All right. Meanwhile, it's about 20 minutes before the top of the hour, and Heather joins us with some aviation news.
Hey, he has such cute hair. It's like little boy hair. Combed over like that. I love that look. All right. Good morning to you all. Got a couple news headlines I want to bring you right now. Plane maintenance records. Look at this thing right here. Those records are now under the microscope as this plane burst into flames at Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Investigators now combing over the debris from that burned out jet, looking for clues about what happened. They say there was an uncontrolled engine fire that caused this horrifying scene. It sent parts flying, and then it sparked that fuel fire that sent smoke billowing into the cabin. A few passengers suffered minor injuries in a rush to escape. A California woman missing for 5 days is certainly lucky to be alive this morning. The 69-year-old driver crashed her car into a ditch in the Mojave Desert, and she was trapped inside. 5 days later, drivers saw that car and reported it. Investigators or rescuers finally reached that woman. They spent more than an hour trying to pry her out of that wreckage. She was eventually airlifted to a nearby hospital where she is now listed in serious but non-life-threatening condition. Thank goodness for that and those rescuers. 5 days, unreal. And this is another unreal and outrageous story. This combat veteran says she was humiliated by American Airlines, and she is now suing that company.
Arguing back and forth, humiliation, harassment, and ultimately my flight was denied. The whole situation perpetuated my disability. It sent me into crisis mode.
Yeah, this is about her service dog. The airline refusing to let Lisa McCombs, who suffers from PTSD, from boarding her flight with her service dog despite her paperwork and her veteran status. The lawsuit alleges an American Airlines agent argued with her, asking, "What is your disability anyway?" She's now asking for unspecified damages. This story drives me nuts. I've been on planes so many times where I've seen young women with little fluffy dogs and they claim it's a therapy dog when really their therapist or somebody wrote a note for them. But this, a legitimate case, that woman, American Airlines, needs to do the right thing.
She had the paperwork.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks.
Outrageous.
Thank you very much.
All right, it is 18 before the top of the hour.
FBI agents investigating the Clintons on the verge of revolt over interference from the Justice Department and Attorney General Loretta Lynch. Has she finally crossed the line? Former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales is here next.
And Donald Trump is making the most of his last week on the campaign trail. The race is close as it's ever been. We are live on the campaign trail next to find out his strategy for the final 8 days and Hillary's as well. All right. Donald Trump going all out on Hillary Clinton over the FBI's renewed investigation into her emails that came out on Friday.
And Mr. Trump is taking his message on a last-minute push in the state of Michigan in an effort to win what is traditionally a Democratic state.
John Roberts joins us from Grand Rapids, Michigan with the latest from the Trump camp. Hey, John.
Ainsley, Steve, Brian, good morning to you. Folks arriving here at the Deltaplex in Grand Rapids, where Donald Trump has got a noontime event. After this, he's going to Warren, Michigan, Macomb County, home to all of those famous Reagan Democrats that propelled him to victory back in the 1980s. And you're saying, well, wait a minute. Doesn't Hillary Clinton have a lock on the state? Real Clear Politics average of poll shows her up 7. But Donald Trump's campaign says, oh, we got some other polls that show it more within 3 points. Certainly, the race is tight nationally. Take a look at this. The new ABC News tracking poll just came out. It remains unchanged from yesterday. Hillary Clinton leads by a single point, 46 to 45. But in the crosstabs, there's some interesting trends developing here. Hillary Clinton's unfavorable ratings in this poll now at 60%. That is higher than Donald Trump at 58%. A couple of things to watch for. Since the new FBI investigation news broke, there's been a 4-point drop in enthusiasm for Hillary Clinton, and Trump's support among Republicans at 89% is higher than Hillary Clinton's at 87% among Democrats. So some things to watch over the next few days. Donald Trump today, of course, will be talking more about the renewed FBI investigation as well as issues. He likes to talk about Obamacare because with the double-digit increases, a lot of Americans will be facing it as a huge election issue. And he plans, he said this yesterday in Greeley, Colorado, to end the most rancorous, divisive election we have seen in a long, long time on a positive note. Here's what Trump said.
I will continue to address and expose the criminal corruption of Hillary Clinton and its threat to the survival of our democracy. But I also want to spend these next 9 days with the wonderful people of this country talking about my vision for making America great again. And let's talk positive.
Should be a good crowd here in Grand Rapids today. The Deltaplex behind me holds 6,200 people. And, of course, Kent County is a county that Mitt Romney won in 2012. So should be a lot of enthusiastic support here. And at this point in the election, enthusiasm counts for a lot, which is why that number between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump about who's got the more enthusiastic support among the party, very important and something to really keep watching. Ainsley, Brian, Steve.
Thank you very much. John Roberts there at the Deltaplex. And John should be... Hey, John, by the way, talking about enthusiasm, you're there at the Deltaplex. On November the 5th, they're having a bacon and beer celebration there. It's $20, and it's pretty much all the bacon you can eat.
You know, just another reason to love Grand Rapids besides the Ford Museum.
Fantastic. All right, John, thank you.
Thanks, good look getting the smell out.
Who doesn't love bacon smell?
Yeah. In the afternoon?
They do. They do
like
make
it all
bacon
day.
perfume or cologne for men.
There you
go.
Mm-hmm.
And it sells one a year.
Meanwhile, I would buy it.
Really?
Meanwhile, FBI agents FBI agents investigating the Clintons on the verge of revolt over interference from the Justice Department, and in particular, apparently, Attorney General Loretta Lynch. We're going to talk to former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales about that next. Good morning to you, sir.
Over the summer, Attorney General Loretta Lynch recused herself from the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails, but has she still been pulling strings behind the scenes all along? Former Attorney General under President George W. Bush, Alberto Gonzales, joins us right now. We were just talking to the break, Mr. Attorney General. Always great to see you. And we're saying we don't know what's going on between Justice and the FBI. And what do you mean that she might not have really recused herself from this investigation?
Well, if in fact there was a formal recusal and there was a process involved in formally recusing herself from an investigation, then she would not have been able to comment at all as to what Director Comey did last week. Once you recuse yourself, you're out completely.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that there's no direction for Maine Justice. At that point, the Deputy Attorney General steps in, and that's what's so peculiar about all of this is the absence of Maine Justice from this whole investigation, to me, is rather puzzling.
What about the tension, clearly, and the disagreement between Justice and the FBI about going forward? Is that highly unusual to you?
Well, occasionally from time to time there's going to be tension, of course, between the investigators and the prosecutors in terms of whether or not to go forward or not. Investigators may think there's enough evidence to go forward. The prosecutors may look at the evidence and decide, no, we disagree. It is our job to make that calculation. So sometimes there's going to be tension, but obviously what makes this unusual is the fact that we're just a week away from a presidential election involving one of the candidates, and that's what makes this so unusual. The other thing that makes it unusual, of course, is the way that that Jim Comey announced this summer that they would not move forward with any kind of criminal charges. So there's very little about this investigation that is consistent with protocol, quite frankly.
We understand, too, that Justice found out the New York field office was continuing to pursue this email investigation and how it's linked to the foundation. And the word is, according to this Wall Street Journal article, that Justice Department was extremely angry at the FBI for going forward with this after Comey made his little speech.
Well, that to me also is somewhat surprising in that you've got the U.S. attorneys who are the field generals for Maine Justice. Their job is to make sure that Maine Justice is aware of any kind of investigation that it could be considered high profile, which of course this would be. And so the fact that there may be surprise about that also is somewhat puzzling to me.
Senator Harry Reid comes out and says, I think Comey's in violation of the Hatch Act, and he might bring up some type of might bring some legal action against him. Is he in violation of anything that you know of?
I don't know whether or not this is a kind of action that would be in violation of the Hatch Act. The Hatch Act was intended to prevent, government officials from going out and politicking on behalf of a candidate, using government resources on behalf of a political candidate. I'm not sure that this really reaches a violation of the Hatch Act.
And Mr. Attorney General, you're one of the rare people that really has an understanding on the inside and outside. As you look at this situation, what bothers you most?
Well, certainly there are many things that bother me most about the investigation. One is the absence of the Attorney General and the prosecutors in this case. It's as if they've stepped aside completely and allowed the playing field entirely to Jim Comey, who heads up the investigators, and that is not the appropriate role of Maine Justice. Their job is to take the evidence gathered by the investigators at the FBI and make a decision as to whether or not a crime has been committed.
When the next shoe drops, we'd like to call you. I hope you stay by your phone. Mr. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Meanwhile, coming up straight ahead in our final hour, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager under intense heat this morning. The Democrats' top aide, Huma Abedin, no longer on the trail. Did they throw her under the bus? Mike Emanuel is traveling with Hillary. We asked him to check under the bus. We'll tell you what he found.
Is November, so start your Christmas shopping, Brian.
Yes.
That means today is Halloween. It's October 31st. I'm Ainsley Earhart. 8 days until the election. So we have a Fox News alert for you. Hillary Clinton's top aide lawyering up now after the FBI gets the go-ahead to read more than 650,000 new emails on Anthony Weiner's laptop.
Another 650,000 emails. I think that's called the mother load. We never thought we were going to say thank you to Anthony Weiner.
We are live on the campaign trail, Steve.
Thank you, Carlos Danger. Then Hillary Clinton and her team declare war on the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
We don't know whether they're to or from Hillary at all. They could be things that don't have anything to do with Hillary Clinton.
In fact, it's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling.
Yep, back off, everybody. She's the victim, some say. We're going to tell you what we know on this Monday morning.
And one of the biggest names in news, the Chicago Tribune, calling on the Democratic Party, at least one columnist across the country, to stop propping up Hillary Clinton and demand that she drop out. Wow. Keep in mind, your mornings are better with friends.
Get dressed. is such an important story. We're going to get straight to that Fox News alert. The FBI is under fire now. Senate Democratic leader, you see there, Harry Reid, who is retiring, accusing Director James Comey of breaking the law as